about 7 years into my emotionally abusive marriage, something happened that I never saw coming. Now, initially, in the beginning, I was struggling with anxiety and depression, maybe some dissociation. But around the 7-year mark, my system was like overloaded. I had taken on more than I could process, and my mental health shattered. I was dealing with high-level panic attacks, so much so to where I couldn't breathe. I was hyperventilating. I felt like no matter how much air I was getting, it wasn't enough. And my nervous system was so dysregulated that there was no peace, no calm. So my body was constantly in fight or flight. In my brain, I was getting fear, extreme fear, panic, really horribly negative thoughts. It almost felt like my brain was completely hijacked. Like somebody came and flipped a switch and I was no longer in control. I was left battling my inner world completely on my own with no outside help or support. I honestly had no clue what had happened. I was terrified, and the thoughts of taking my own life were running rampant. It, at the time, felt like it was the only way I was ever going to escape what was going on inside of my system. I was engaging in warfare, like spiritual warfare. I was praying. I was crying out to God, like, please get me through this. And the only thing that was really keeping me strong and pushing through this was my children. But God came through and eventually led me to some of the most critical information for getting through this and coming out the other side completely healed and whole. Now, the other thing that sort of happened was once my mental health began to fall apart, and I dealt with this for easily 6 to 9 months of just complete mayhem in my mind. I was researching, I was looking, I was to no avail. Like nothing was coming in that was truly making a difference. And after my mental health went, my physical health completely took a dive. I was combating physical symptoms in my body, gut issues, skin rashes, joint pain. I was just suffering completely. But like I said, God led me to the right information, and I began to utilize very specific treatment therapies that I was able to do at home on my own. And in a very short amount of time, I was able to get a handle on my mental health and my physical health as well. I was able to overcome and eliminate a lot of my physical health symptoms, as well as all of the negative thoughts, the panic attacks, and I was able to re-regulate my nervous system. So I am no stranger to, fighting through absolute hell. It is completely a miracle that I'm still here and still alive and have made it through all of this. The battle's not over yet. There are still things that I am working through. Not only was I accumulating trauma for that relationship, but I was able to see an even bigger perspective of how childhood trauma shaped me into accepting and allowing abusive relationships in my life. So the work continues. But these methods that I teach on my channel are tried and true. I promise you guys that they are an answer to anything that you might be experiencing. So whether it's PTSD, CPTSD, OCD, schizophrenia, psychosis, all of these things can be reversed. They can be worked through. And I feel that even counselors and therapists are still barely catching on to these concepts and able to help people work through these without just medicating them and sending them on their way. So please stay tuned to my channel, you guys. I am living proof that these things work.